already on the books that says basically you can't sell porn to children. I understand. We have to have a certain number of laws that say, look, don't sell hardcore pornography directly to an 8-year-old that walks in. That we have certain amount of limits as to what we do or don't show to people. So I understand that. And as you've said, though, the big problem is when you sign into law something so vague they can cover potentially everything or nothing depending on how you interpret it. That's when things get really weird. Of course, the other question will be whether this will survive any length of time. It's not uncommon for bills to be signed into law and then 6 weeks or 6 months later to be repealed because of lots of concern back and forth.
Well, I think the audience knows I'm the positive one that always likes to find the positive in stuff like this. But there is the massive. There are quite a few things we can look at positively, like the vagueness. Yes, that can be thought. The government can use that against us, but at the same time, we or by we I mean more the companies that make anime, can use it against the government. It's a two-way street. And then
again, if this actually works, think how much it'll improve the second series of High School of the Dead.
Hey.
Yeah, there's a good point.
There is the very bright, the bright side to this.
Actually, no. What is the
High School
legal
of the Dead?
age what is the legal age in Japan
for adult?
No, for
age of consent.
Yes.
It varies by not principality.
IQ.
By province. So
for Tokyo then, where this law is situated.
I probably 18.
Yeah, it's 18. Okay.
The characters in High School of the Dead are 18.
Yeah.
They're at the end of their high school.
True.
True enough.
Actually, I should jump in there because if anyone asks, and I get this a lot, folks like to point out that the age of consent in Japan is 13. That is technically correct. The national age of consent in Japan is 13, but every province has its own age of consent, and they're all between 16 and 18, and they all overrule the national age of consent. Basically, the nation made an age of consent, back in 1738, and then all the provinces made it, and they never bothered to update the national thing. So please don't, write in and say, oh my gosh, it's actually 13. It's not. It's actually, 17, 18. But yeah, and that's the thing, is that there are plenty of situations where you have anime that deal with these things, and the question is how that will be affected. And I mean, what's interesting is this means you could show, for example, Chubra on TV in Tokyo, but you couldn't buy it in Tokyo. You'd have to order it from a place in Kyoto. Yeah, it's strange.
It's just, I don't know. It's like I want to quote Ormad here. The responsibility is not the producers; it's the parents, and that. But the thing is, like, this is what happens, and this is actually the same. Well, this is basically what happens with stereotypes of, like, for example, us minors and stuff. It's what happens is a few people do something stupid, and because of that stupidity, everyone gets affected. Yeah. It's been the same with video games, it's like, and also like just some stupid things, like if some stupid parent lets their kid play something ultra violent, some ultra violent video game, and then suddenly the kid apparently becomes violent. It's not the kid's fault. The parents aren't regulating them enough. And this whole youth thing, corrupting the youth, in the end, it's just Japan trying to do the parenting for them. Because a lot of people in Japan are now shoving anime on because it's bright, it's colourful, it distracts their children. And, it's just a way... And all these stupid idiots who are trying to use it as a babysitting device. And, like, the TV... And it's very, 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 very silly in that manner. I mean, for example, say the horror happened that I became a parent, sort of thing. I would not be an idiot to let my son or daughter watch High School of the Dead. But then again, think about it, there'll probably be some idiot out there who's like, oh, I know, I'm cooking something, I put High School of the Dead on or something. It's a DVD I have, there we go. And it's stupidity that is the reason that we have to do this, because well, not have to, but they're trying to do this because they're trying to do the parenting for them.
Well, and just to be clear for folks, understanding where we're coming from, what this is going to affect, which is interesting, is how things are sold. Because basically, you can either, apparently, according to the law, if you run afoul of this law, you basically have to market your stuff 18 plus. Only saleable for folks over the age of 18 or whatever. So, which of course drastically reduces your sales, generally speaking. Although, what will be interesting is to see if this kind of switches this around. If that, the only stuff that's actually tackling these interesting issues are the 18 plus stuff. What's that going to do? That'll be interesting.
It will become, what's it called, R18s, possibly?
Yeah.
It'll if the only point of reference I've got is the Californian gaming violent video games bill, and basically that treats violent video games, and also the rule of violent is very as in someone actually managed to argue that technically doesn't this make Mario extremely violent? But because it's the vagueness like that sort of you find loopholes, and also the government also exploits these loopholes sometimes. But it depends how passionate they are. But what happened with that is they tried to, if there was a violent video game that was an 18, they basically treated like pornography. You had to go to a certain section of the store and be a certain age, and you had to be something to buy it, and they were trying to make sure it was and you had to sort of make sure all sorts of shady characters forget walking into a porn store, you're walking into Game Station, and walking out shady looking, having a bag,
Little brown bag.
Little brown bag, and basically it definitely when they tried to pass it off in the whole of America, it definitely got a lot of the people in the industry worried. And what's happening is that this is something that if this, unlike the Californian one, goes further, a lot and because it's actually Tokyo and a lot of the actual sort of profit they get is in Tokyo, it means that there will be a lot of holding back, and it also means that the TV stations that do the anime are gonna be rather worried about the animes they post a lot more, and this could create problems a lot of people complained when in the previews of the new 2011 version of Berserk, it looked toned down in terms of the nudity and the violence, and the reason is that it's trying to keep its audience, and with this law it's trying to sort of keep get a new audience in, but then again it's not really, supposedly, some people say, I still think it looks amazing, doing justice to all the other things, because apparently that's the problem. But in the end, it's just it's we can talk about this for hours and hours, but just the bottom line is, if this goes through, problems will occur, but then again, are we going to get new things? We're going to have to find out, and I guess the only way we can actually properly discuss this is in a few weeks, when they give out the guidelines.
Yeah.
Well, to make one last point then, or at least from my side, Brent, you sort of made me realise something. So they have to put an 18 label on it, yes, in stores. So a kid can't buy it in store.
Right.
But it's very, very easy to get anything, no matter what your age, online.
Absolutely.
So all the company has to do is realise this, for one, and then just say, right, we'll just sell everything for digital download. Digital download, you can download it straight to your hard drive as long as you pay. You pay the same price you pay in store, or you pay less. And all the kid has to do is either pester their parents, or, a lot of kids at the age of 13 have the wrong credit card.
True.
All they have to do is order it.
I'm sure, especially in Japan.
Boom, they've got it.
Yeah, that's the other point, is that whether, Tokyo will end up being this area where there's lots of stuff, pushed off, but the actual fans will know, okay, fine, I'll just go online and buy a copy from, whatever is their version of Right Stuff.
And also, if it's just in Tokyo for now, that just means that companies will, well, not companies per se, companies will sell it out of Tokyo, and then what will traditionally happen is, because I've never been to Tokyo, but I'm presuming it's pretty easy to get out of Tokyo within a day, via the train or something. So all you'd have to do is, maybe there's a certain town that starts advertising the fact that they're selling this stuff.
Yeah.
They just send out leaflets or emails and just say, can't get the stuff you want in Tokyo, come to Sham there. Get a train ticket, and it'll just mean there's a massive boom of those kind of sales in another town. And that's not good for the Western, but it's good for the economics of little towns. And, that means that it'll still sell. Might even sell more.
That is a good point. Could sell more. The thing is, though, just one thing that confused me about this law, there's already a rating system in Japan.
Yep.
I mean, I mentioned it earlier with the whole BBFC thing. The BBFC takes some of the stuff off the rating system. And as you can see, as I explained, the rating system in Japan actually does mark kind of harshly. We don't need more. This isn't, if it's saying it needs self-regulation, why don't you just go to the regulating systems and say be a bit harsher? Why do you have to go pester the companies about it? Why can't you have the regulating systems regulate the companies? So then, like stuff with Family Guy, when it's sold on DVD or something, it can raise its thing up, and it will raise its age up as well. So you get these special editions and stuff with there's more on them, and it's just
I think arguably that just would not have passed the committee. I think if they had said, no, we are unilaterally changing our censorship laws, I think the Assembly wouldn't have let it go. But when it says, we're going to make the industry regulate itself, that's a much easier sell, because now there's less for government to do.
So much easier said than done, though. Making the industry regulate itself in a place of individualism makes a rather large problem. People have different views on what over-sexual thing is. Like I said, I think that you can justify from that one scene the entire sexuality of Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt, yet other people are going to be so turned off by it, even if seeing that scene, because they understand, because they, all they see is sexuality there, and there's such an individualistic element to it, that, making the industry regulate itself is impossible, because you're trying to pretend that an industry is a smooth machine. It's not. It's a hellhole of copyright issues and rating systems, and it's a sell that the industry is going to regulate itself. But is it? No, it can't, and it won't, because it will always be disagreed to what self-regulation needs to be.
Yeah. Gynax won't care.
Gynax can't care. They're too good to.
All right. Anything else on that then? I think we pretty much covered that pretty darn well. It's a very interesting issue.
Well, Brent, you did make one comment about because Ghibli said, the whole thing about Ghibli not having to worry.
Yeah.
But just to be a bit negative, Matt's being negative, the world's ending. Think of the absolute menacingly kerfuffle explosion that happened about the fact that in My Neighbor Totoro there were naked young girls.
Where was that explosion?
For one, I think you mentioned it once or twice, and I've read at least 2 articles about people not liking the fact that...
Not in Japan. Not in Japan.
Oh, true.
No one cared in Japan.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Ghibli is, by Japanese standards, very safe.
Right.
So, yeah.
And plus, Ghibli, have a lot of money. They can afford a lot of lawyers. Yeah. So whatever they do, but it's gonna, the problem is, it's what's saddening is that the law will corrupt on itself, but because of the way they've worded it, which I have to admit is actually, tops off to them. Whoever came up with the wording of the law, well done. They have made it such an easy sell that it could spread. But will the spread have any effect? Would anything?
Yeah.
It's not. Look, we can discuss it for hours, but then again, until we see how easy sell the